Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode. This is episode 35 of the Earthy Amy Show. Today is going to be a really exciting episode for me because this subject is very controversial and it's a controversy inside myself. I feel like I have a debate on religion and spirituality all the time, and I'm always thinking about it as well. And the reason why I'm talking about it today is because I watched The Prince of Egypt, and so I was just thinking about how interesting religion can be and just how not invasive. I'm going to be very careful with the language today because I know that there are going to be people out there who are religious who are going to watch this. And in no mean am I saying that religion is not a good thing, but I do have my own personal ideas on religion and my own stances and views of religion. So I'm just going to elaborate on those things a little more. I thought it would be interesting. And so I hope you guys find it interesting as well. And if you do, make sure you like this video and leave a comment down below if you don't agree with some of the points that I have. Please enlighten me. I am very open to having conversations with people with different ideas. I think it's really healthy to have those kind of conversations. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start episode 35 of the Earthy Amy Show. Okay, so the first thing that I want to just let you guys know is I have a bunch of notes. So I'm gonna go through each bullet because I tried to, every time I had an idea, I wanted to make sure that I would be able to write it down and that I would remember it as soon as I was watching the video. So, like I said, I was watching The Prince of Egypt, which is honestly one of my favorite videos to watch, one of my favorite movies. Growing up, I really liked that movie, and I think the idea of The Prince of Egypt and the story itself, I really like the concept, and I think the way that Disney ended up making the movie was really, really good. I watched it, I think, a few months back also, just because I like to rewatch Disney movies. Does anyone relate? But I watched it a few months ago just to see what it was like, and I still liked it a lot. I still like the concept a lot, and so I when I watched it today, I don't know why, I just felt like I wanted to watch it, and so when I watched it today, I was thinking, oh, maybe I could do an episode on this. So here we are doing an episode, and where I want to start off is kind of my religious background, and kind of explaining my stance on why I feel the way that I do. So my religious background is really non-existent. I wasn't really raised on a certain belief, or I wasn't, to one specific religion. My dad is Catholic and my mom is Christian, and so I know that they're different. And to be quite honest, I don't really know that much about religion in general, just because I've stayed very far away and distant from religion. And for good reasons. And when I was younger, I did go to my mom's church and I would be there, and I do have memories of being there. And I've always had so many questions about religion, about what it meant to believe in God. How did he exist? Who created him? I had all these questions that I felt never had answers to, and it's one of the issues that I have with religion in general is that I feel like I have all these questions and there's no answers. And so that's one thing that I feel like I've always had an issue with ever since I was a lot younger. But when you're also young, you don't have a thorough understanding of the way that things work and the way that life works. So that's the basic intro of my religion, or my non-religion background, religious background. And so as I got older, of course, we start to develop a better sense of the world and a better sense and understanding of the way things work. And to me, I just have always really believed in Mother Nature. And I think that if there's a belief or religion for that, that's what I would believe in. I would believe in Mother Nature. I think she provides. I think the sun provides. Rain provides, everything in nature provides for us and helps us grow and helps everything else grow as well. So I would say that I'm very much, my religion would be Mother Nature, if that's a religion. But that's what I would always say to people. I'm not religious, but I do believe in spirituality, and that's something that developed even more over time, because I eventually realized that although I didn't believe in a God or a deity, I did have faith that the universe helped things work, and that things there's a connection to everything. I believe that there's a connection to every single being, and that we are all connected one way or another, whether we believe it or not. I think that we are all very, very much connected. We are connected to nature the same way that nature is connected to us. We are a part of everything, and everything is a part of us. And so I've really learned to embrace I would say, a sense of unity between everything, and have realized that, or I believe that there is no hierarchy in this world. And we have been taught that there is, and that there's someone always above us, but I don't believe that's true. I believe that we are all intertwined, and we all belong to Mother Nature, and we are not above her, and we should not exploit her, or Mother Nature's beings, including ourselves. And so I have I would say a very, not even spiritual sense of the world, but I would just say, I guess you can call me, I don't know, not a perfectionist, but I'm idealistic, I suppose. So I have, this perspective that is, I think, not unique. I think a lot of us do share this idea, and I think at the very core of religion is the idea, or the basis of loving one another, and recognizing that we are no different than one another, and that we should be unified, and have love as our foundation and as our basis of understanding the world and how we interact with the world and with one another. So that's what I would say is my overall understanding of religion. And I'll talk a little bit deeper as we go through these points. There's quite a few points that I'd like to go through. And I wrote these down as I was watching The Prince of Egypt. Sorry, it's a little hot, but I was trying to jot down some notes and some ideas that I had. And so hopefully some of these resonate with you guys. And if not, I would really like to hear what your thoughts are on religion, because, there are so many different perspectives in life. And I think it's really important to listen to other people who have different views, whether you agree with them or not. I don't expect everyone to agree with what I'm saying or what I believe in. But I hope that if there is some spark or some interest or some debate, I would love it if you guys just let me know in the comments below, because that would be really helpful and just so good to and refreshing to be able to communicate with other people. So let's start with I just want to give an overall view of The Prince of Egypt. It is, in the beginning it says it's from the Exodus, which you can read in the Bible, I'm supposing. And like I said, I really don't know a lot about religion because I wasn't brought up in a religious household. I don't have a lot of background. I'm not baptized. So for some people, that means I'm going to hell. I've never had my first communion. I've never done any of these things that pertain to the Catholic community. And so, there might be some things that I'm not going to get right. And so if I don't, you are more than welcome to elaborate or clarify for me. But yeah, so that's basically the intro is, they say it's from the Exodus and you can read it. And so the overall story is that the Jewish people, the Israelites. You see, this is why I have a hard time explaining this, but from my understanding and from what my mom has told me, the Jewish people were basically slaves to the Egyptians, and throughout the movie you see this, and then Moses comes, and Moses basically says that he has been spoken to by God, and that he should do his work, or he will do his work and liberate all these people. So the concept of it is very, very strong. And I honestly resonate with it a lot because I think that there are a lot of similarities with what's going on in today's world, and what this story is talking about, what it's centered around. So one of the first things that I said was oppression. The whole movie is based on oppression and kind of how that plays out in the movie. Obviously, the oppressed are then liberated at the end. And then Moses is one of the Egyptians, or he believes that he is part of them, and treats the slaves as slaves, and does not really view them as human beings, and as people worth valuable people. That's what I would see. And it's interesting because you see his evolution, right? Like in the beginning, he's very, the slaves are slaves, and he doesn't associate with them. He does not see them as people. But the people in his circle and the way that he grew up is like that. Everyone has treated people as such, and even those who work within their temple, or within their their structure. In the early, one of the earlier, the earlier scenes, you can see that the pharaoh's wife looks at the two women who are there with her, as if kind of like, asserting some sort of dominance. So that I thought that was interesting too, because I think, like I said, there's always hierarchy. And I think in religion and in society in general, we have been taught that there is supposed to be a hierarchy no matter what. And that it seems like there really is no other way, which I don't think is true. I don't believe in hierarchies. I think that's the biggest problem with the way that the world works today, is that there always has to be someone above somebody else, and there always needs to be a ruler or a king or somebody. An example would be our president, somebody who does the task of navigating everybody else's life. And I don't think that it always has to be a negative thing. I think that there can be good rulers, or there could be good leaders. I would like to say it as a leader. I think there are good leaders in this world. I think that a lot of them have been corrupted, unfortunately, by money and by greed and by power. And that's what it seems like Moses was like as well. He was corrupted. And it's interesting because, as I was watching this movie, I was thinking, at what age do we get corrupted, or how does the soul become corrupted by all these things that I consider mundane, and by these things that really are at the end meaningless. And that's difficult too, right? Like, you have to talk about money and all of this other stuff. And it's really a huge thing. But so that was one of the things that I said is, oppression is there. But it's interesting too to think about oppression and how that can also be reversed. So this is where it's going to get a little controversial, because I think not everyone is going to agree. But I think that, we can look at Israel and Palestine today and see that Israel really is invading a lot of Palestinian land and trying to, and does not see the Palestinian people as people. A lot of people have said that it is modern day apartheid. And I wouldn't disagree either. I don't know if I would really call it apartheid, but just for a lack of word, I would, say that is what is going on. And I'm learning more about that as well. And as I understand it, you see how the oppression has kind of have turned around. And it's not everyone also. I don't think, I think, just to clarify, not everyone has to be this way or is this way. But I think that oppression has reversed. And so now it seems like there is an oppressor and there is the oppressed. And it's interesting because it seems, in that sense, if you really think about it, then maybe this cycle is never ending, and that there is a need for there to be an oppressor or a ruler or someone above in this hierarchy, in the hierarchy that we create in this life, and there always needs to be someone below. So I thought that was very interesting as well, because you see it, and Jewish people do not really want to take over this land, and the story kind of talks about that. There is a promised land that they are supposed to be delivered to, and that's as far as I understand from the movie. Like I said, I'm not religious, nor do I understand the text very well. So if there's some clarification, like I said, feel free to let me know in the comments below. But from my understanding, that's basically what's going on. And so I think it's really interesting that ends up playing into the movie, because, you do have to, I like to think of things from a very, I like to stand back and kind of look at everything in the most logical way possible. And that to me is the logic that comes out of this whole interpretation, and also the way that things have turned out. So I think it's really interesting, and I think it's worth mentioning, but you don't have to agree. But I thought that was something that would be interesting. So it just seems like there's the possibility of there always being a vicious cycle, and that's something that maybe we can never get out of. I don't think that we have to be this way. I think that there is a possibility, and I think there is definitely a huge possibility of being able to get out of this cycle of oppression, and there being this hierarchy. But I think it would be very difficult, because there's not a lot of people, or it seems like there's not that many people who believe that. But that's why I also want to mention that I think religion and spirituality are two very different things. I would consider myself a spiritual person, because I believe in this circle of life. Let's bring in a Lion King proverb. There's a circle of life, and I think that everyone is connected to it one way or another. And I think when we start to see ourselves in other people, then and only then can we recognize that the oppression that we give to that is upon other people is not okay. And the oppression that we give to animals in this case. I am vegan, so I do believe in animal liberation. That's really crazy to some people, but honestly, that's one of the reasons why I went vegan, because I don't believe that there is this need for hierarchy. I think we are all on the same plane. I think that's what religion really is about, is understanding that there is equality amongst all of us, and that we do not need to exploit the earth or one another or the animals that have been created by God, quote unquote, and whatever God you believe in. I don't think that the God that people believe in is okay with the oppression that there is today, is okay with the hierarchy, is okay with the exploitation of people and resources that have been given and created by quote unquote God. So I think that's also an important note to say. It's interesting too how there's this talk of delivering the promised land, or someone will deliver the promised land, or they would bring the people to the promised land. And this I find very interesting, because I think in all religions, we have this one person that will liberate all of us, or will bring us to a better land or a better opportunity, or will guide us into heaven if we have done everything correctly. And one of two things: I don't think that we are meant to be perfect human beings. We cannot. I think that we have feelings, gluttony. I feel like it's hard to say that we cannot feel these things and that we should prohibit ourselves from feeling human emotions. And it just really is about, more than anything, making sure that we don't, like I said, it just goes back to oppressing other people, or making sure that we are doing things in excess. I think things can happen, and I think that certain things can work, but there just needs to be some sort of cap, and like how far can that go, and when do we stop? So I think that's important. And two, I think when we talk about there being a deity who's going to save us from the evils of the world, I think that we create those evils. I don't think the evils, I would say that we create the evils. Us, humankind, human beings, we create these evils in the world that we see today. And in order for us to fix those evils, I think it really comes down to relying on ourselves and not waiting for someone to come and do the work that we could easily be doing ourselves. And that's one issue that I have with religion as well, is that a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit for the work that they have done in their lives, and believe that, no, somebody else did this for me. No, I think we do that for ourselves. I think when we understand that we have the power within us to change things, and can change the fundamental basis of what we are, what we have constructed society on, I think we can make a difference. And I think that we can reconstruct everything and make sure that it is equal, and that there is opportunity for everyone. I truly don't believe, and that there will never be equality, because I think that there can be. And I think just for a long time, our society has always taught us that that is not something that is possible, and that's not something that can happen or is viable at all, which I don't think is true. But that's where my idealistic sense comes in. I think I have this utopian idea of the world, but I think it is possible. I think that if I can believe in these things, then it's also possible that maybe 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 other people can also believe in these things. And it just like I said, it's just about making sure that we don't let ego get in front and tell us, or let us, or it dictates and drives us to do things. We should recognize when ego is controlling us, and when we are doing things from the heart and from the soul. So I think that's really important. I just want to make sure that people understand that you can have faith in something. I don't think that it's, you can't have faith in whatever you believe in, but to neglect your doing what you have been able to do is, I think, an injustice to yourself, because you have to recognize your own power and realize that you are capable of doing the things that this God or your God is capable of doing. And to me, God is the universe. I think God is the universe. It encompasses everything, and that's Mother Nature. I believe in the universe, and that the universe helps in mysterious ways. I cannot put it to a person and say that a person did all this, but I do believe that things work in mysterious ways, and I don't know how some things are possible, but I think that we have a huge role in the way that things work in our lives and play a huge part in the way that things play out in our world, in our personal worlds. But I that's just one thing of the many things. So I also wanted to go back to the oppression. It's interesting that kingdoms are built on the backs of somebody else, and that goes back to the hierarchy as well. There's always a hierarchy amongst ourselves, and it's like there can never be just an even playing field, or just we can all celebrate for ourselves, or be able to work with one another peacefully. And I think peace and love in the end is exactly what religion is trying to create. It's trying to create this equality within amongst ourselves, and also this peace and unity. And that's very idealistic, but I think that's ultimately what religion is trying to do. But I think that religion has also been used in many situations where it has been used to oppress other people, but also keep people in control, or be able to control people who follow a certain belief. And I don't think it's all of them, but I think that in a lot of situations, I think it prevents people from being open-minded, and from being able to have different kind of conversations, and being able to just explore different ideas, and recognize that other people are, even though they have different beliefs, are still okay. And they're, it's not like they're evil, or that they're not right. And that's also an issue that I have with religion in general, is that I think it really does prevent people from seeing that other people are allowed to follow their own paths, whether we can resonate with that path or not. And I personally think that that's really dangerous, because that creates even more of a divide. It can create divides within families, in personal relationships. And I think it's just really crucial to understand when you've overstepped that boundary. You're more than welcome to have different beliefs. I just think that it's really important that we don't tell somebody else that they're wrong for believing in something that they feel is right to them and in their world. And we all have different experiences. We all have different perspectives. And that's really, really important. I really, really dislike that about religion a lot. I don't think that everyone is like that. Like I said, this isn't like, I don't believe that everyone who is religious is like this, but I think that a lot of people do follow this path and believe otherwise. So I want to also just tell a quick little story that I thought was very interesting and relates to this. One day I was taking a lift with my friend when we were going out, and I had asked him, he seemed very religious, so we started having this conversation. Like I said, I enjoy having conversations like this. I think it's really important for us to be able to communicate with one another and explore different ideas. So I asked him, what he thought of people who do bad things, and should God forgive those people who have done atrocities, like killed people, innocent people, or maybe have raped people, people who create a lot of evil in this world, the evil that we talk about and that we speak of and that we fear. And so, his response was that God would alleviate this person no matter what, or he would forgive them for what they have done if they really gave themselves up to God, which I also don't agree with. That's one problem that I have with the Catholic religion as well, where you can go a whole week doing whatever you want, and then on Sunday or whatever day of the week it is, you can go and just release all of your sins, and then you're just forgiven. It's like nothing ever happened. That I'm not okay with, because that gives people the okay to do what it is that they want, things that are hurtful to other people, and can really damage people and damage people's lives, and emotional health. And I think that it's really important that that is not something that should be escaped. I think that if there is a God, that God would not believe in protecting this kind of person. How can someone do something so terrible and then just say, oh, well, I'm giving myself up to God now, and so now it'll just be like nothing ever happened. So I just want to make sure that you guys can see me properly. So if you see me fanning myself, it's because, hey, it's really hot in here. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is, no one can be equal in this system of hierarchy. And like I said, I think society has been based on that for a long time. I think since the existence of what we would consider our society. And I think our society really begins when we talk about democracy and we talk about Athens, and we talk about the Greeks in the beginning of democracy. And I think that democracy, this is a little off topic, but I think democracy can work. But on a smaller level, I think that's all I'm going to say, actually, because I don't want to dive into something completely different. But yeah, I think that the world has been like this for a long time since we have created all of this. And I think hierarchy is really embedded in not in our nature. I really don't think that's true, but I could be wrong. Because I think there is hierarchy amongst animals, but I think that, we don't even like to relate ourselves to animals. We're like, no, we're not animals. But it's like, yeah, we are. But, when we think about it in that sense, it's like, well, if we're not animals and we've evolved so much to be, these incredible human beings, then maybe we shouldn't be doing the same things. If we have so much mental strength and mental capacities, why are we still doing the same things, repeating history over and over again, and creating this vicious cycle of hierarchy and oppression, when we can easily do away with it and try to find a better way of doing things? And like I said, I think it hasn't been attempted, or at least that I know of. I feel like it hasn't been attempted. And so unless we can really fully attempt to make an equal society and make sure that we all do live in peace and unity, then, I don't buy it. Like, until I've seen it, and I've seen it try, and I think it has tried to happen on really small levels within communal livings. But I really I don't know. I feel like it's possible. I really do think it's possible. We just haven't had the courage to do that yet. And I hope that in the future, and if there's any way that I can participate in creating that change and creating that unity, hopefully that is a possibility in the future. And hopefully maybe, when we all realize, and this is another point that I have, when we all realize our individual power and that we can do a lot in this world, and that we are capable of doing the things that we believe are not capable, then and only then can we create the change that we really do want to see in this world. So that's it for that. But yeah, so I want to also say, what it also goes back to say, what corrupts the soul. And I think we are born inherently good. I used to have these conversations in school, and it's like, are we born inherently good? I think we are. I personally think we are. I think our environment corrupts us and makes us the way that we are, whether we become good or bad. I think our environment has a lot to do with the way that we react to the world, and the way that we think of our placement in the world, and ultimately the way that we exist here and with the world. So, and it goes back to, also saying, we're looking for a savior, but the savior is us. And I truly do believe that. And I remember, I think Kanye West did something like this, like, I am a God or something like that. I mean, it's a song, but I really do believe that in this specific subject as well, Moses speaks to God, and Moses says, God tells Moses that, he'll do the work, his work. And so I thought that was interesting, because it made me think about how we ourselves can do these things, and that instead of waiting for a savior, we should be doing the saving ourselves. Because if we keep waiting, that we're going to just be waiting forever, to be honest. I really think that we have failed, and that's part of the reason why I don't like religion. Is I think religion has convinced people to believe that they themselves cannot create this change unless somebody else, their God, is going to come and do it for them, and that they are not capable, and we are not capable of doing these things because we just don't have that power. And then, like I said, I believe that the universe will help you when you help yourself. And so in that sense, yes, I think it's absolutely possible that we can do these things that we believe are not possible. But I think belief goes a long way, and I think we can see that in certain situations where belief has helped people get out of situations. And it's very interesting, right? Like, there are things that are really unexplainable. And to me, that just shows that there is something out there, but we also, that belief, when we believe in ourselves, we can accomplish the things that we thought were once not possible for ourselves. But on top of that, I also wanted to mention that, there is a God within all of us. And I think that if God were to use Moses to do his work, I think that only shows me that there is, though maybe we are not directly, whether you believe this or not, we are not directly gods ourselves, we can use the power of God and let it work for us. And I personally think that we are all gods in some sort of way. I think we were created very uniquely, and we are very beautiful and individualistic, and we all have very interesting traits to one another. None of us are ever the same. Not one person is the same, and I think that's kind of incredible. And I think that we can create the change, like I said, and in some way I think we are kind of gods. And if we can believe in God and God can help us do things, then why can't we believe that we ourselves are gods? Like I said, it goes back to giving ourselves a pat on the back for doing the things that we have done, instead of saying that, no, I don't take full credit for this because I didn't do this. Only God did this. And I think we play a huge part in the things that happen in our lives. And so, I think in a lot of ways we are our own gods and we are our own saviors. I've always thought that about myself. I think that I don't want to wait for someone to come save me. I have to save myself. I will ultimately do that for myself. I'm not going to wait for someone to do that for me when I know that I'm more than capable of doing that for myself. And that's just taking back my power from society, but I think also from religion as well. So, you can have your own ideas on that, but I'm curious to know if you guys agree or not, and you don't have to, but and I also thought one thing that was really interesting was the disrespect that there are for women. And I think religion has been used to justify actions that are wrong, that are morally wrong. So one thing that I think is also interesting is, Moses tries to liberate his people. And so God, what he ends up doing is creating atrocities and killing innocent people as well, right? And they were the Egyptians and maybe they weren't directly affiliated with the pharaohs. But I think the fact that innocent people still died, I think, is a huge problem also. And it goes back to the justification of the actions that religion takes, because I think that it doesn't make sense that you fight fire with fire. And in one way I can understand why, because, he needed Pharaoh to understand that he wanted to let his people go. But I also don't think that we should be fighting fire with fire. I don't think that creates any sort of real solution, because eventually those who have been oppressed, I think, will come to a position of power and then see that they, through their own power, can create that same oppression, because they recognize that they have been oppressed for a long time, if that makes sense. The oppressor could be the oppressed could end up becoming the oppressor in some sort of way. And I think that is also because of a lot of ancestral pain, and we can recognize that. But I also just think that it's really dangerous for that to happen. And that's why I think that there might be a vicious cycle that maybe we can't break. But I think that we can, and fingers crossed that we can, and that we do, because I think it's a huge possibility. I don't think it's impossible. We just need to, keep spreading this kind of message, whether, if there are other people like myself who believe in this, and if you're watching this and you resonate with this, I think it's positive, because it shows me that there are other people who do believe in creating unity and bringing people together and just living in a unified and peaceful society, which I think is possible. It'll be difficult, absolutely, but I'm hoping that, whenever this new cycle of life happens, which I believe in different in cycles of life, and I think in some way we're kind of coming to our own end of the cycle. But when the next one comes, I'm hoping that maybe we can, do it differently. And I think it's been possible, and we've seen it in other societies. And it's not 100% perfect, but I think it's a lot better than what we have today. So yeah, that's one of them. And just quickly, I want to cover a few more points before my camera dies. But like I said, I think it's about seeing ourselves and others. And that's one thing that I found really interesting about Moses' evolution, is that, in the beginning, he is very like, these are the slaves and I am here, I have the power. And it wasn't until he saw himself as one of them that he was willing to stand up for them and was willing to do the right thing for them. And that just that reinforces the idea that I've always had, and especially in the political climate today and the way that we talk to one another. I think when we can recognize ourselves and see ourselves in other people, we can create empathy, and we can empathize with other people and recognize that their oppression is not okay, and that we need to do something. If we have the power to do something and create change or talk about change, then we should do that instead of letting it happen and not doing anything about it. And I just think that's really interesting because, like I said, it says a lot about our own personal, the way that we also behave with other people in today's current world, which is why this movie still resonates with me in a lot of ways, because I feel like a lot of what happened then is still happening today. So, I just think we really need to see one another and learn to empathize with people again, because I think we've forgotten for a long time. Not for a long time, but it seems like we've just forgotten how to empathize with people. And the environment, the political environment today seems very nasty and hateful. And that's coming from somebody who rules our country. And that's why people think it's okay to behave and to speak to one another in this way. And we need to make sure that we continue to show these people that this isn't okay and that this isn't normal. This isn't what America stands for. This isn't what our society stands for. At least I hope not. I was having this conversation with someone the other day on like what it means to be American, and I was kind of explaining this whole dilemma that I have, but that's my dilemma. But yeah, and power does corrupt people. I think, like I said, we have to make sure that ego does not talk for us. I think ego has its place, but I think in a lot of ways ego does tend to take over, which is why I'm very wary of ego, and I try to make sure that I don't let ego rule me, and instead I not rule ego, but I dictate when ego is allowed to come out and how much of it comes out, and to make sure it's kept at bay when it's supposed to. Because I think that some power can corrupt people, and I think, it can be very easy for that to happen. And I just want to make sure that, it doesn't, I think power can make people think that they're invincible and that they can easily do whatever they want. They can erase things, or they can make someone the greatest person on earth, or they can manipulate history to make themselves look good. And I think that's what power can do to some people if they are ruled by ego. So that's what I think. And then it also prevents us from seeing our own power. I think religion has that power to overrule other people, not overrule, but rule over other people. And eventually it prevents us from seeing our own power, and that we can do the things that we are more than capable of doing. Instead of waiting for a savior to come do the work that we can easily do, create the change that we wish to see in this world. Instead of waiting for someone, we can easily do those things. It's just that religion has blocked people from believing that within themselves. But that's what I think. And I think ultimately religion, sadly, in my perspective, not sadly, but I think maybe sadly for some people who are religious, who might be watching this, I personally do think religion was a way to simply control people and to keep people at bay, prevent them from questioning the way that the world works. I was telling my mom that was what I was, thinking about. And I think that religion has come out of a way to get people to be oppressed or to believe in one thing and not question the way that things are. And she told me, she was like, what the Bible says is, not to question these things and rather believe. And I think that really prevents people from really questioning their world and the way that they see the world. There's nothing wrong with having questions and questioning things. We should always question everything. That's one thing that my dad has always told me to do. And that's what I have always done, is question everything that I see and that I hear. And that's something that I've done with religion. And so I think the fact that we are not allowed to question these things, or we're given a very simple answer like just believe and don't think too much, don't think too hard about it, is very numbing, but also very scary, because it's like, I don't want to be silenced. I want answers. I want these answers. And sometimes it's hard to get answers. Like when you have belief, I think that you can't always physically see the answer or have a concrete answer, but you can have an understanding and have faith that, things do work out the way that they do work out for whatever reason. I'm a firm believer that karma, what goes around comes around, but also that things happen the way that they do when they do for whatever reason. And it's hard to understand it in the moment, but I think in the long run, you end up realizing how incredible the way that things just work out the way that they do when you pursue something that you love, or when you pursue your highest deed or your highest self. I think that everything works out in your favor to make sure that you get to where it is that you want to go to, no matter what you're pursuing. I think that the universe will help you, or in this case, God can help you get there. But like I said, to me, God is the universe. And yeah, so one thing that I really liked out of the whole movie, and my favorite part of the movie, is probably the scene where they sing, and it's, look at your life through heaven's eyes. And it's hard in a lot of ways. I resonate with this movie because I feel like it has a lot of really positive things to say about ourselves as individuals. But I also just think I like that scene because it helps you remember, or at least it helped me remember, that although I cannot see the value in my own life, if I look at it from an unbiased perspective and see it from my highest self, and look down at not look down, but look at myself from my highest self, if that makes sense. Highest self will recognize that I am evolving, that I have evolved from where I used to be, and the fact that I am no longer that person and am a better person speaks a lot and speaks volumes, and is really, really important, and it is very valuable. And I think that's very interesting because, we should look at ourselves from through heaven's eyes, quote unquote. My dog is trying to get inside my room, but like I said, I think it's really important that we recognize our own power and see how much we have grown and how much we have evolved as human beings, living in this world. And I think it's quite incredible when you say it like that. Look at yourself through heaven's eyes. Honestly, it's really beautiful, and I really love that part of the movie. So to end on a happier note, I really do like that. I love what it stands for. I love what it means, and I think it's really important that we try to carry that original message of what religion was trying to do, or what it tries to do, more than anything. Okay, so I guess that's it for the video because my camera just died. So this is now a voiceover. Thank you so much for joining me today and making this a possibility. I really do enjoy having these conversations with you guys. I think that they are very interesting, and ultimately they're very controversial, but I really enjoy that about having these kind of conversations. And so, I hope that in the next video you guys will join me as well. And if you would like to support this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Leave me some comments down below and let me know what you guys think. I really am interested in hearing your perspectives, and I would be more than happy to have this kind of conversation with you guys. And last but not least, I'd just like to say that I ended up putting a poll on my Instagram, and so if you're not following me there, I would say go there and follow me. Go to my Instagram. There is a link in the description box, but it's earthy.amy, and there I talk a lot about other things. I also go lives on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can join me and we can have awesome conversations, and you can ask me more questions on things that I've said or debate with me, and I'd be really interested to hear what you guys say. It's a good way for me to communicate, I think, a lot quicker with you guys. But the question of the day today was, are you religious or spiritual? And 33% of you said religious and 67 said spiritual. So in numbers, that's 10 on spiritual and that's 5 on religious. So I think that's very interesting, and it seems like our generation is starting to be more spiritual than we are religious. And I think that shows a cultural shift, but a societal shift as well about the way that we see ourselves and the way that we are learning history and the point that we're at. And I think that it's very interesting how much we have evolved as a community, as a whole community. And I think I look forward to seeing what the world provides to us. And I really do think that it's all possible. But I'll leave you with this one last question. Is when is the end of this type of oppression? Because like I said, I think that religion does oppress one people, and it elevates one other group of peoples. And so I'm just really curious what to think. Or do you not think that it'll ever end? Is this part of our human psyche? Is this part of our human collective? I'm really curious to know what your answer is on that question. So let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much for everything. I can't wait to do another episode and be here with you guys. So until next time, thanks for watching.